This time... This time, it's going to be an emotional support group for the maelstrom of what just happened. This is your final warning. There are spoilers. There are so many spoilers. We will talk about all of the things. Flee now. No one will be offended. You're fine. I saw one person go. Okay. Y'all know what's up. You're like me. You didn't sleep. You played the game as soon as it came out. All right, that's why you're here. Good. Everyone can hear you. All right. So, getting right into it. First to start, this has intensified. It used to just be a couple of the people on this list, but now we have 6 Rikus, so many Xehanorts, 5 of them are calling themselves Ansem. We'll try to be consistent with how we refer to the different versions of the same people. We usually refer to Repliku as Repliku. We refer to both Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, and Ansem the Wise as Ansem, and it gets confusing, but usually because I like saying Ansem yelled at Ansem. We also call him Ansod because Seeker of Darkness. It's a good time. Also, there are now 2 individual different young Xehanorts that we have to keep track of because there is no god. Lightning killed him. So we've been referring to the pure, less douchey Xehanort as Skalanort. That is where it is from. So now, as we begin, Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora freaking dies. So, let's talk about the secret ending and why it's very likely that he's actually dead. I would also like to clarify, just because he's dead doesn't mean he's not going to be the protagonist of the next game, because this is Square Enix. Alright? No one's thinking he's not coming back. He's just currently living challenged, it looks like. I'm sure we've all seen the secret ending by now. Sora wakes up in Shibuya. For those of you who are not familiar with The World Ends With You or just Japan, this is a very real-world location in Japan called Scramble Crossing. It's in Shibuya. It's kind of the equivalent of if Sora woke up in Times Square in New York. The big kicker here is that this is the same location as The World Ends With You. It actually is almost, not quite shot for shot, but very similar to the opening cutscene of The World Ends With You. Right. Also, there are The World Ends With You spoilers in this panel also. Because of what happened, because Nomura did things. Where the main character of The World Ends With You, Neku Sakuraba, wakes up dead. Notably, it uses the same 104 building instead of the 109 building. The building in real-world Japan is the 109 building, in TUI it is the 104 building, and they used the exact same thing, which is a big hint towards it being related to TUI, and we have more evidence for that. First things first, the Dream Drop Distance cameos of the World Ends With You characters are considerably more canon, quote-unquote, than any of the other Final Fantasy or Square Enix cameo characters. They are the only people to refer directly to the events of their original games, as well as the only characters to actually invite or acknowledge their own world to Sora, which at the time just seemed cute, but now seems relevant and important for reasons. There are a lot of things, and of course my favorite line, which is when Sora is like, "You have friends, Joshua, you love all of your friends because friendship and that's how it works," and Joshua's just sitting there with this look on his face being like, "I shot him in the head twice, Sora." For those of you not familiar with The World Ends With You, it is about a bunch of dead kids playing a game in order to get a second chance of life. It's actually much more complicated to that, but that's what you need to know for relation to Kingdom Hearts at this time. Like I said, you have a very similar shot-for-shot with Sora waking up with Shibuya as Neku did. So the idea that he just died and then apparently is going to go play the Reaper's game in Shibuya somehow for some reason seems likely. I'm sure it's not going to be that straightforward because it's Square Enix, but there seems to be some sort of obvious tie between the things. The other building that we see Riku in front of is the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building. There was a lot of debate about this because it also looks like a building in Insomnia and Final Fantasy XV. That building in Insomnia is based off of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building. It's like the equivalent of walking up to a famous building like the Empire State Building or the White House. We can see in the ending it actually pans from Scramble Crossing directly to the government building in the background where Riku is. And the kicker there is that the government building is in... Oh, I did these slides out of order. Is in Shinjuku, which we'll talk about in a second. Here's just a map of Japan in case you think I'm bullshitting you. And you can see that Sora and Riku are approximately 50 minutes apart on foot without flow motion, so probably... The thing about Shinjuku, that's the real stinger, and why I truly do believe that there's going to be a tie-in to The World's End With You, is that it's the only other location in real-world Japan that has been acknowledged in The World's End With You in A New Day. I don't want the darkness right now, Anthem, please stop that. In A New Day, in the secret ending to the recent The World Ends With You remix, we see Shinjuku, Japan get inverted, attacked by noise, what have you. It's very stylized, but the same building is there in that screenshot getting dissipated. It should be clarified that that's most likely specifically the UG of that area getting destroyed, not the physical area, so there is a reason for the building to still be there, hypothetically. As well as this mysterious girl who knows the future, which with how Kingdom Hearts is going with all of their prophecy books and things like that, showing Neku visions of the future. There's some concerns about her and her ties with things since, and the fandom has apparently named her Hype-chan because the Twooie fandom doesn't just call people the mysterious figure, they go all out. More about A New Day, like I said, we have Hype-chan, we talk about the visions. Neku dies again because Joshua doesn't have fucks to give. As well as the mysterious, but I suppose that's their problem now. Honestly, I don't really think it's particularly referring to Sora or Riku, but it very well could be. It could just be referring to the hierarchy of angels that are discussed in the secret reports of The World's End With You, so on and so forth. Also to keep in mind, Joshua says many suspicious things that now tie into the greater franchise and have much more significant meaning. He talks about how something seems to have happened to Shibuya that caused them to die again, as well as, perhaps most notably, he casually has a conversation with Riku about parallel worlds, which makes that concept canon to Kingdom Hearts. They're just like, oh yes, parallel worlds, I know about that, that's a normal thing. It's fine.
Don't worry about it.
Which now has significantly greater implications on things because of world lines, which we'll talk about in another slide. It gets its own thing. So whether or not it is, they wind up in the exact same Shibuya as The World Ends With You Shibuya is also up for grabs, since there's technically two different canon ones, since Joshua goes to the Tinpin timeline that one time. So it's a mess, but it's a mess that points towards needing more candy cane. Why would Riku be there if he's dead? Well, Sigbar did start the game with a lot of ominous things, talking about not admiring a guy who would leap into danger if it meant another guy had to do the same thing. I mean, oh no, Riku doing something stupid to save Sora again. That's never happened before. Why would we think that? So that's actually probably the least addressed and most confusing part of the thing. He shows up in Shinjuku, which might imply that, like Dream Drop Distance, one of them is in what is in Tui the real ground, or our world, and Sora is in the afterlife world, in this phase-shifted, very high sci-fi metaphysical split. Who knows? And then we also have this guy. So Verum Rex translates to True King. That's just alarming for a lot of reasons. He looked like ya boy Riku and ya boy Noctis. His name means night sky, which is what Noctis' name translates to in Latin. also being sort of the antithesis of Sora's name. So, you know, there are your facts. In the history of Kingdom Hearts, I didn't spend as much time speculating about our boy Yozora as I could have, because way back in the day, you'll remember the secret ending to the Game Boy version of Chain of Memories, and we all went, who the fuck is that blonde kid? Alright? And then Kingdom Hearts 2 happened, and we were like, why is Roxas a popsicle, and who do they think they're fooling with palette swapped Xemnas? So, all things considered, this is probably such a new concept that there's not much to tie in or conjecture to be able to tie it to, just as Ventus and the Wayfinders were entirely new characters being introduced with ties and relations to things. The best thing we can speculate about is why he looks like Riku, which might have to do with world lines or parallel world things. Is he voiced by Ray Chase? Is he the Master of Masters? Oh, and a quick thing about FF15 and Final Fantasy Versus. I did a lot of research on this in light of Nomura's seeming wanting to shove his OC in one last time, but as I found out, most of the story of 15 actually retained from Final Fantasy 13 voices. Nomura was displeased because of how some of the DLC implementation was handled. He wasn't super fond of that. But for the most part, some of the original trailers still had Noctis and even Prompto, and they did actually carry out the original core story. The biggest thing that I was looking into was the idea of the original trailers for 13 Versus had the tagline of fantasy based on reality, which would be pertinent to the whole, we're in Shibuya now, in actual Japan. But even in those early trailers, it was still based on reality, not in reality. There were still airships, there were still your standard Final Fantasy fare. So Final Fantasy 15 and 13 Versus truly are the same game to my understanding after doing some digging. But that still doesn't mean Nomura didn't sort of shove it in as his last bit of salt about kind of losing control of the project. If the reason Ray Chase is voicing the Master of Masters is because of this, I will chew off my left pinky. Alright? But I have a sinking suspicion that this might actually be the reason, and I'm a little upset. And now we're here to talk about world lines. This is a new concept that was introduced in the secret reports. I don't know how many of y'all here got a chance to beat all of the battle gates in addition to the main plot line in order to read about those things. I have everything, S-scripts of everything I reference up in here, as well as an S-script from the World End With You's secret ending and their take on the concept of parallel worlds. Because we're getting into some metaphysical nonsense. So, from what I can discern, there are basically three options about how this is going to work. Option one is they are just parallel timelines. We dealt with Xehanort and his time travel-y bullshit, but it was all in a vertical, linear sense. He time traveled perfectly linearly. He treated it as a single fate line. The way I described it is kind of how Sailor Moon handled time travel, whereas Parallel Worlds is kind of how Dragon Ball Z handled time travel. Where you have a branching timeline for every possibility, and when you go, back in time and change the future and you go back, you can go back to your own timeline, but you can jump sideways to the altered timeline, stuff like that. Especially as we talk about how the foretellers in back cover escaped to another world line after the Keyblade War. It seems to be implications that the Keyblade world ended reality and they went into another timeline. The second possibility is sort of a harder reboot, slightly more complicated version of the same thing. Has anyone here seen Mirai Nikki by any chance? Because that makes it easier to explain. So basically the idea in that is that it's not just another timeline. The world ended and was rebooted as a hard reset, but everyone has false memories, like history was still falsely recreated. It's just not something that technically actually happened. It's sort of the difference between if you had a digital painting and you'd been working on it and you kept changing and altering the file versus if you manually copied it into a new file. It would look the same, but it would still be different. And the idea of the difference between the hard reboot versus the timeline thing might be something they do to account for Xehanort shenanigans. I'm not sure. In addition, the standard parallel world fair, we have the TUI script where one of the characters explains how there are countless parallel worlds. Travel among them is possible in theory. Anyone can do it, but it's so difficult that it limits people who can, and it to the point where even some people who technically could may be weakened by it to the point where they wouldn't be able to make the trip back. That actually really matches the idea of the different union leaders and characters from Key, which we'll talk about more in depth in a moment, getting ripped out of their timeline and stuck in the new one, unable to go back. But again, that might just be because we blew up the world with Kingdom Hearts that one time.
Just the one time.
Just the one time. We stopped it the second time, it's fine.
Are we sure?
I'm going to stop every so often to ask for questions, because doing it all at the end, people forget, but doing it as we go causes people to get derailed and slow down, so I'm going to try and segment it out. So in a few more slides, talking about the world line thing. So for those who aren't familiar with the whole history of Kingdom Hearts Key and all of this BS. Originally, it was a browser game in Japan. You played as your Keyblade wielder until the Keyblade War happened and watched yourself die. Because Japan. Back cover, the movie that came, the 2.8, is set in this world line or timeline with the foretellers talking about the incoming Keyblade War. There are, for the most part, the same cutscenes in Key as in Unchained Key, which is, of course, the cell phone remake that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, but the ending splits off. If you're current in Unchained Key, you'll notice dialogue of some of the characters talking about things different in this world. They're referring to the fact that those characters who aren't your player were alive and experienced those events until the Keyblade world happened, at which point the Dandelions dipped out to another world line. Union Cross is, of course, in that same timeline, and so those are our world lines. That's what we got. The question then becomes, which one this is based off of the things people of, I swear to God, Ansem, shut up. I don't know if you can hear my phone. It's Ansem just repeating the word darkness. There is some logic that would make sense for both of these, basically based off of some things that were said in the secret reports about No Name. Luxu says he passed off No Name to one of the second generation foretellers, and since we see it, Xehanort has it. That would make more sense for it to be in the second timeline, but since Luxu doesn't really talk about the fact that he switched timelines, it's a little ambiguous, but it's much more likely that we have this by following the No Name logic. That everything is taking place in the second world line, especially since when it comes to Marluxia, Glorium, Elena, Arlene, Demix, and Luxu, apparently, they were described as having traveled through time to get there, not through another world line in the brief instances in which it was brought up. So that would put that in the same thing. Cage 4!
Probably.
Who knows where Shibuya is? It's in a timeline or world line.
Oh, it's in Japan.
It's in Japan. What world line is Japan, Judai? Alright, is this gonna be like 5Ds all over again?
It's
Fucking
Japan.
Gonzo on time?
Yes.
Alright. I'm sorry for my Yu-Gi-Oh references. At this point, yes, I see a question from someone spiky.
What if, this is my theory that I just came up with right now.
Okay.
What if Shibuya, Sora being in Shibuya, that's actually World Line D, and World Line C is the end of Kingdom Hearts 1 up to the end of Kingdom Hearts 3.
That would make sense. You just have them all in different, we honestly at this, I would like to apologize for everyone. The game came out like 2 weeks ago. I normally have way more research done than this, so I'm like, well, this is what I got in 2 weeks. We're a little unsure.
Do you think Nomura actually has anything planned, or is he just fucking?
Oh, I know he has things planned. It's Nomura. He always has things planned. It's probably most likely him fighting against Disney to do the things that he wants, and Disney going, "This is a kid's game, Nomura," and then being like, "Oh, okay, I'll just take Vanitas' backstory and shove it in this novel that no one's going to pay attention to."
I love that.
Yes. Also, I see people going, "Oh, the Birth by Sleep novel just got officially localized in America like this week."
Yeah.
Before you could find translations online.
I thought it was coming out in March.
No, it just came out.
Oh, okay.
That's what I saw from Insider. I could be wrong. It has some extra chapters. It's basically just a novelization of Birth by Sleep, but it has some extra chapters from Vanitas' perspective. They are really messed up. They are not good. They have lots of self-harm and child abuse. It's terrible. Because this is a Disney game. And this is why Vanitas needs hugs. Yes. Yes. No, all of the novels are canon. They're not, it's not like the manga where it has like the extra kind of shitposty humor that's not considered canon. They are like pretty straight just novelizations that give more insight to what's going on in the characters' heads during the things. I want to read it because I want to pick Ericus's brain because I trust him as far as I can throw him, which is not far because my arms are noodles. So, moving on, we're going to do a quick review for anyone not like, actually just show of hands. Who knows Kingdom Hearts Unchained? Like, who here's up in that cell phone game? Alright, I'm seeing like about half. And the Heartless is playing it right now. That's a mood. We talked about it just a minute ago. The big players know. You have the first generation foretellers. These are the assholes you saw in the secret ending. They're friends with Luxu and the Master of Masters. They're from Timeline A before the Kingdom Hearts got exploded. And back cover, fun fact, they're all named after different of the 7 deadly sins in Latin. Ascet is sloth, envy is envy, ira is anger, gula is gluttony. Abba is greed, Luxu is lust, and Master of Masters presumably is named Superbia, which is pride, because super, like it's vaguely written on the box in one screenshot. Yeah. Strelitzia is a beautiful flower child who should be protected at all costs, and was not. Also known as Kingdom Hearts Aerith. I'm allowed to make this joke because I'm going to be Lorian tomorrow. She dies in that timeline before we get to the 2nd generation, which is why she's up there separated off for people who are not familiar. She is Lorian's younger sister, for people who are not current with things. Lorian definitely did not kill her. He is very upset about the state of affairs. Question, real quick.
Do you think the name of the star is strictly Yes. Because she says she said it was a somebody, not a nobody or hardly.
Yeah, I'm going to admit I didn't read all of the stars and I haven't had time to go find all of the dialogue somewhere on the internet yet. I know you wrote them down and I didn't ask for them because I was dying. I know. So I haven't gotten a chance to pick them apart. It's either Strelitzia or just like the key kids in general, or like a combination of any of our kids on the slide, basically, in my opinion. Barley?
Do we know why there's like Heartless in Unchained Key and all that yet?
No, that's still a big gaping plot hole of like that time. Well, with the Book of Prophecies basically is why. I actually can't answer that. Sorry, I got distracted because we don't know why Donald and Goofy just casually canonically show up in some of the events. But they specifically, it's not just that they're immortal, yes, but they specifically say they're looking for the key like they are at the beginning of Cage 1, which is why it draws concerns. Mushroom?
It was explained that these are projections of...
Yes, no, I corrected myself. It's the Book of Prophecies making the illusion projections kind of like Castle Oblivion. You only see in Daybreak Town generally, like, the Emblem Heartless are projections, the Pure Blood Heartless are natural because they're ever present, so it's good. We have the 2nd generation foretellers. We have Ventus, so if you're not familiar with that, Venny Boy is way from the past. We have, that name is fake.
Blade's name.
Bets.
We have Blade, or that sounds fake. We have Marluxia. Marluxia is somebody who is a pure boy who is allergic to standing up straight at any time. He always has to lean or sit on things. Skald, who, fun fact, she is named after one of the Norns from Norse mythology, which is like the Norse equivalent of the Fates. It's suspicious. The other two will probably show up in some capacity, I am certain. It's also a name of a Valkyrie. It's not a great sign. And ephemer, or ephemera, whatever floats your boat. He's a good boy, it looks like, but also he has white hair and therefore cannot be trusted.
I mean, but he has blue eyes too, so.
Riku had blue eyes.
And of course, Elena, or however we're gonna find out it's pronounced, I gave up, who is Larcene, somebody who is beautiful, who has been introduced as a Key kid, and Chirithy, who, anyone not familiar with Key, every Key kid in Key has a Chirithy. It's sort of like their PDA/Dream Eater friend for whatever reason. It's fine. Chirithy's a good boy. There's a bunch of them. They're all named Chirithy. They're not bothered by that. There's 2 Ansems. There's like 8 Rikus. It's fine. There's 500 Chirithys. So that's where your small fuzzy boy is from. Now getting into tearing apart the lore for this. Why does it hate me?
What's me?
We have this wonderful cutscene where Xemnas strolls in like, "What up, my Key kids?" And just, you get the different reactions and you get, this doesn't get addressed in the game for the rest of the game at all. Like, literally, Xemnas strolls in being like, "Oh yeah, y'all Keyblade wielders, ain't that tight?" And then like, just, they don't do anything with it. Like, just by the way, we need you to tell us some stuff about the Keyblade War. But, you died, okay, though that's fine. Like, did they get to tell, like, did they, we'll talk more about Marluxia and Elena seemingly restoring their memories towards the end when they die later. But what's important to know is we'll probably be seeing Demyx and Luxu show up. We actually kind of called Luxu because his powers involve cards and time, and the original browser version of Key used cards instead of medals. So we kind of were like, there are some legitimate concerns that Demyx might be the master of masters at this point. Because he just gives no fucks with Larcene taunting him. He's like, "I'm an intimidating person." And after is this the next slide? No, it's not. It's them still. After some things with Luxu and the mannerisms and the way of talking about it actually being the right call to draw the line to, Demyx's behavior and the Master of Masters' behavior being similar, I'm like, if this boy,
Gosh, I know yesterday.
the bastard of yesteryear.
He did say that.
So yeah, Marley does not seem to have had his memories and seems to have possibly been chasing the organization knowing he had lost memories to get them back. It would actually explain why he was so mean to Naminé quite a bit. And like, "Oh yes, Castle Oblivion, that place with this person with memory powers, this is mine now." Larcene seems to have known what was going on the whole time and helping people. She was along the ride with someone, she didn't say who. The way Key is set up now, it would imply that she's been helping Lorian for whatever reason, so she was referring to Marluxia. She was someone who was friends with Strelitzia before she died in some capacity, even though she was like, "Well, I don't really know her that well," but then she's like, "But I will help you find her and find out what happened to her, definitely, so it's fine." I didn't start tripping them at all. I don't know, it could be Demyx or Luxu, and they just are red herringing it like they did with Marluxia being the killer. But the fact that she knows what's up is concerning. Yes, and now we get to talk about chess. It's still relevant.
It is.
Because we have a new game, because Ericus is a good boy. Maybe.
Or
Maybe.
we should.
No, we're not. Just real quick, we have the new chessboard confirming that the new villains 100% are going to be the original foretellers, the 4 people you see in the secret ending, the 5 people who you see in back cover, in addition to Luxu, Luzea Breakbar, and, well, there's some concerning things about their methodology. The idea that the Dandelions was like, the Master of Masters asked Ava to selectively decide who would live and who dies, basically. There's some moral ambiguity there. As well as, like, Gula, I'm just gonna summon Kingdom Hearts, it'll be fine. Gula no, Gula yes.
Yes.
And all of that. And of course the Master of Masters piece is just Xehanort's but fancier because goats, because sin symbology. The animals that they represent, by the way, are in traditional demonology texts, the animals associated with their sins that they're named after, fun fact. And you got Luxu rocking the Book of Prophecy symbol, which is just concerning for like 20 million reasons. Lord knows what they're doing. They're not trying to help because you can't save the world with just 7 people. There's also the line that Xehanort gives they're the people who started the war or for whom the war was started. Meaning there's a possibility that, like, say, the Master of Masters or Luxu or someone was doing all of this elaborate shit in order to help the other foretellers, stop them from dying, something along those lines. But we don't know. The point is, we do know who the next bad guys are, and that is important.
First and foremost is Luzea Breakbar.
The first and foremost is Luzea Breakbar.
Haven't heard that.
So, there's not a lot to say about this. It happened, and we have to accept it now. Again, a lot of people weren't surprised because the mannerisms of him look like the Master of Masters. I'm sure he is Luxu and not secretly the Master of Masters, since Luxu, one, his sin is lust, 2, idolized him, probably tried to emulate him as he grew up as a coping mechanism, which is a sad way to think about it. I'm also really mad because this made me, like, feel bad for Sigbar, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about having feelings. Yes.
Lest
we do forget, though, the whole series is a history of apprentices taking on their
Yes.
names.
Yes, the history of apprentices taking on their masters. And so, there's not a lot to say about it, but we can't talk about the box, which we still don't know diddly jack about, because, like, the whole time Maleficent was like, oh, the box, and they were like, nah, you don't get to know. We have a little bit more information. We still know about the 13 locks, the way that the emblem on the top is designed is to have the 13 spokes on the outside and the 7 on the inside, which points towards it being somehow Kingdom Hearts related. And we have Luxord's lovely, they told me it contained hope, which is a whole can of worms. Given the end of the game, some people are theorizing, and I wouldn't be surprised, especially since Maleficent shows up and is like, well, maybe the box doesn't exist yet, and it's going to come into being, that maybe Sora is in the box. It is a person-sized box. And anime has taught me that your waifu is in the box. So, you know, Sora's like 50 different people's waifu, it's fine. It could be the Master of Masters himself, it could be Strelitzia for some freaking reason. I doubt that one anymore. I used to believe more strongly in that, but hope. Meaning we're also delving into Square Enix finally tearing at its general want for theming of moral ambiguity and more sympathetic bad guys. They tried to force that in on our Norts as much as they could, but they didn't get to do quite what they wanted, I imagine. But that's just the ramblings. Oh yes, I forgot about that. Hope. You know, that guy. So for those of you who've seen back cover, you'll remember, but we don't even know who the traitor is yet. And this slide has been in this panel from the beginning. In fact, this panel, the first time we did it was cold, but we don't even know who the traitor is yet. And we got in trouble with the con we were at for making a name that was too ambiguous, but they gave it to us anyway. There's a lot of evidence pointing to that the traitor, at least in the instance of the one written on the last page, is Ava. It has to do with the cinematography cues in the original browser version of Key, as well as some actions, and there's now more evidence going forward now that we know more information and things that were revealed in Kingdom Hearts 3. As Gula reads what's written on the page, the one unable to forgive this distastefulness, who thought of fate with pessimism and lost true strength, the one who misread the truth and stepped into secrecy, and then in with that one swing, the bell that tells the end of the battle will sound. So like this scene where she's attacking Luxu is like, the bell is chiming, and that is a bell that's actually referred to as the start of the Keyblade War, the first one, in recent key updates in Japan. So it's, you know, the passage reads contiguously. It seems like it's referring to that moment. But even more than that now, with the first passage referring to the idea of a person who basically looked at the Book of Prophecies and went, nah, fuck that. That does a lot of pretty words for basically what Ericus is on about. His whole, you know, maybe I can change it, yeah?
Isn't the distastefulness and like the truth she learned is because in that scene,
Yeah.
Luxu tells her,
Yeah.
like, this is what the Master of Masters is really doing. And then, of course, the camera cuts away.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back, and then that's what she's like.
Yeah. For those who can't hear, the whole next slide is dedicated to that. So in that same scene, Luxu says, yup, that's the true identity of the traitor. It's cut away, so we don't actually see what he's saying, but he explains it, and she seems really upset, won't accept it, and attacks him. As well as all of Sigbar's sketchy dialogue at the end of the secret ending, where he's like, oh yeah, Ava's not here, I'm sure she's doing her own thing, for reasons. That really, for me, hammered home the idea that Ava is the quote-unquote traitor. Personally, I'm of the opinion that she was the one who wound up actually activating Kingdom Hearts herself, out of the 5 of them, because you know one of the 5 did it, or maybe they worked together, I don't know. But someone had to, you know, be the one to pull the Keyblade trigger. But yeah, no, and Gula, who was the person who trusted her most, was the one who was like, well, where's Ava? And Sigbar being like, it fine, just child. And moving on to that, we have Subject X, who I do currently believe to be Ava. Throughout the course of this game, we had the introduction, yep, of a character who, a mysterious young girl who was one of the subjects for Ansem experiments. We had kind of called that Lee and Isa were breaking into the castle to rescue the third of their hypothetical trio, and that wound up being spot on. Some random girl they found with amnesia that Science Snort was like, I had amnesia once, this will help all of our problems, because science. We got several S scripts in the secret reports from her perspective. We have ones from Xehanort's perspective, and of course we have the things that Sigbar said, because she signs her memoir with May My Heart Be My Guiding Key. That, for me, points to Ava, since we know it was someone from the reports that had to do with the Keyblade War. I was about 15. Here are our lovely contestants, all right? But, I'm pretty sure Ansem would have recognized Luxu. I'm pretty sure Ansem and Zemnis would have been like, wait a minute. I think they're smart enough for that. And this hoe is dead. Now, granted, there's this whole thing where it appears her nobody is running around because of someone in a black coat on the cover of the cell phone game. So it could be related to that, but more likely because we have Ava as the one running around screaming, my heart is my guiding key. That's really what I'm thinking. And also, you know, she's suspiciously missing from the meetup at the ending, and that would give her a place to be. But we can't officially rule out Scold as an option either, since there's evidence for Ava and against Strelitzia and Elena, but nothing either way for Scold.
So do you think that, are were saying that Alva got like de-aged or something?
No, Ava was always one of the youngest foretellers. She was a child. She was small. That was a tiny girl. They say she's the same age as Ephemera.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay then.
That's why they were friends. You first.
Isn't her chess piece also missing from the
I can go back. I did find it, all 7 of, because at first I thought her piece was missing and that the piece that was hers was Luxu's, because I thought it was a scorpion, because scorpion is the lust animal. But I stared at it for a while. Can I go? Yes, I can just kind of go backwards with the arrow keys. Where did that go? You can see it. I'm gonna like, where's my pointer? Hand me my Keyblade. Hand me my tiny Keyblade. It's not gonna reach. It's fine. So it's right here, and it's at a skewed angle, and here. But like, if you look at it, it does pretty much match the silhouette of the fox mask. So that's what I wanted to be, because I really wanted more evidence for it being Ava, being the girl. But in good faith, I gotta be honest and be like, no, I'm pretty sure that's the fox thing. Gotta be scientific, like a real scientist, like a Nort. I got this, all right? So I also apologize. These slides are not in the most ideal order because I've done this one before. Yes.
And there's also the mystery now of who disappeared her, because literally everyone.
Oh no, it's addressed in the secret reports. It outright says a man with an eye patch took me away. So the fact that Sigbar was the one who spirited her off is another reason why I think it's Ava. It would explain why he was the last one who saw her, all of that. That was an important thing, thank you. Actually, that's right on here somewhere. Did I forget to put it on?
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay, so I screwed that up. I apologize. There's also a passage where Luxu, Sigbar, Luze, Breakbar says that he bequeathed no name. I'm now out of breath because I'm weak. To one of the second generation union leaders. So which of these kids has no name? Well, let's talk about all of our boys and girls in depth and some of the things with them to find that out. So what are we doing tonight, Brain? So we have this sketchy boy. Sketchy boy. We have this passage about the virus corrupting the system, and this update that these screenshots are from happened like the day after Kingdom Hearts 3 came out in Japan. So it's intentionally timed to be like dun dun dun.
The dramatic face reveal.
And he also normally, shades his eyes with a hat, which you saw on the sprite, but of course it's the sprite, so it's hard to tell. But we had the dramatic, I'm showing my face now. And he is not about that Destiny stuff. He is all about messing with it and free will, which is good, which brings us to the next theory. Which is this? I see. This is being better received than I thought with all of your despair. As you can see, the boy with the wavy bangs on one side and the little piece on the other with the black hair and the dark blue-gray eyes. And you had the dialogue at the beginning of the game where Xehanort says you can drop the facade. Ericus's behavior in general is incredibly suspicious throughout all of the games, in my opinion. He even goes, I never heard of, where did you hear about that? Like at Xehanort, when Xehanort starts talking about it, being like, I know that, but you're not supposed to know that. What up with this, and his, general disposition being anti-fate would put him in line with Brain's way of thinking. Also, that name sounds fake. In addition, Ericus's...
Sounds fake, but okay.
Yeah, sounds fake, but okay. Ericus's suspicious behavior, the fact that he was just willing to kill Ventus always seemed weird as flip. I can happily chalk up all of the we're just going to invite Xehanort over for dinner in the Mark of Mastery exam because I'm a sad gay old man. That's fine, I'm not gonna worry about it. But you murdered your son, or you tried, and poor Terra. And also the fact that he was just chilling in Terra this whole time and was like, oh, Terra, I see you're possessed by Xehanort. I'm also here. In theory, I could do something about that. Nah, not fine. Of course, we have a comment from Xehanort. There is an excerpt in one of the secret reports that's written by Xehanort just before he goes on his own Mark of Mastery exam, where he describes Ericus as a blue blood descendant from the very masters in the Age of Fairy Tales, which means rather than being Brain himself, he may be a direct descendant of Brain in one of those like sort of traditional like I am the paladin, the knights of the sacred whatever passed on type thing. Either or, I'm fairly confident there's a connection given their, again, the anti-fatal fatalist disposition up in there, whether it's a biological relation or just, you know, some more, oh, look, it's the same person again, bullshit. Imbibe, please, I keep doing this. Marluxia and Strelitzia, like I said, they are siblings. Strelitzia be dead. Marluxia's main motivation is trying to save her, it looks like, of all things. We also have his boss forms, which are the form of a woman in what appears to be a nobody cloak that has several shapes taken from the Strelitzia flower, more commonly known as the bird of paradise. As well as sort of the guardian angel form that stands behind him in the Chain of Memories. So if that's not Strelitzia, I don't, you're wrong, all right? That's what's up there. As for Strelitzia herself, as I mentioned, she may be actually the first nobody. I'd like to take this moment to address the concept. This is speculation, this is something I'm going to throw out there, but might be relevant because of the heavy themes of fatalism. For most of the series, nobodies get a lot of flack for they're not supposed to exist, which poses a question. You know, under what rules, under what logic are you not supposed to be? Is it just because of the laws of nature? But one could say perhaps it is because fate, the future, you were supposed to be dead and there's a version of you still around. Now, this may seem unlikely because all of the nobodies in Organization 13 are well accounted for in the era of Key. They have medals, all of that. But if she is the first one, perhaps the reason that she was relevant and more powerful and potentially working against the Master of Masters and things like that could be she wasn't supposed to exist. She was supposed to be dead. The Book of Prophecy said this hoe died. Again, that also conflicts with what we do know about her. She was supposed to be one of the foretellers, second generation foretellers, and she was shivved and her book stolen. We know for a fact, because of the secret reports talking about the virus being someone who was not supposed to be there, that Brain is the person who took her place in the second generation foretellers. He was not supposed to be there. We don't know if he is the one that killed her. I have another slide. I'm still doing slides out of order. It's fine. We will talk about who killed Strelitzia in a moment, because first we have to talk about Venti Wenti.
Hi, everyone.
I apologize again. I feel slightly less professional than normal. Fate is there in the Age of Fairy Tales for reasons, apparently. His intro cutscene includes, we're fine on time. When he's introducing the key, I mean. His update includes cutting to the Master of Masters and Ava talking, him giving her the direct list of who he personally wants the second gen union leaders to be, and him saying the name Circle of Red is the person who will have the actual Book of Prophecies. It implies that means that person is Ventus. It doesn't necessarily mean it is, since the same logic was used to go, Marluxia killed Strelitzia, and we all know that that is not the case. But it's the evidence that we have at this point in time. His behavior is so unsuspicious, it's suspicious. I'm not gonna lie, like that's what I'm banking on. I know there are a lot of other people who kind of agree on the like, Ven seems suspicious theory. There's also the fact that he gets his Chirithy back at the end of the game and they're just not like addressing the fact that he doesn't remember the Age of Fairy Tales. He's just like, his Chirithy was like, oh no, Ven probably doesn't remember me and he's happy with Terra and Aqua now and I just want him to be happy so it'll be fine. And he like, oh what up Chirithy, it's fine. And it's like, boy, what?
I fucking cried.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification on that. So, so the chair thief in the final world, is that the same chair thief in this ending? And if so, how is he able to cross back into
It seemed heavily implied, given that the Cherokee said, I have a whole slide on Cherokee later, because this shito, because the Cherokee said he's happier with his new friends. That means it has to be kind of, someone who's there in the current time now, so that narrows it down to Ben, Marluxia, and Elena, and I don't really think Marluxia and Elena are happy with their new organization buddies a lot. So that's the take I got, but we technically don't have any more direct confirmation. I see a hand.
Yeah, about like the ending, since the whole series is about connecting to people, even if he doesn't remember the charity, a part of him may remember it.
Yeah.
He was asleep for such a long time, so me neither.
That's true. That is true. Chalking it up to the Square Enix, like, your hearts are connected, it fine, bro. It good.
Plus, technically speaking, I know you've talked about this in past panels, Fairy Tale Apprentice isn't the same as modern day Apprentice, because Fairy Tale Apprentice are both Apprentice and Apprentice.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're both different people.
yeah, the idea that, I'm repeating things people are saying because y'all don't have mics and we don't have a mic that we can run because they're attached to cables, so I apologize, I don't mean to talk over anyone. The idea that the Ventus in Age of Fairy Tales is very different than the Ventus we know, because this is our pure boy Ventus, who apparently was like, fuck that shit, I want to be pure light, damn it. But he lacks his Vanitas, who's running around. This is a Ven, the past Ven is a Ven with 50% more darkness, alright? So,
It's a
finishing off with the As for No Name tagline. My slides are so out of order, I'm a mess, God. I apologize. We have Ephemera as a light of the past, so it seems unlikely that he would have been the one to inherit it. I don't know if that's like a full point against him, but you also see him using Starlight in one of the most recent updates, post-Bell, which would have been after Luxu would have given it to him. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. People kind of use multiple Keyblades all the time, so it's fine. But it seems like some points against it. Marluxia and Ventus be like up in the future, and if they took No Name with them to the future, there'd be some problems. So it ain't them, unless some bullshit happened, which is possible. And it ain't Brain, because he doesn't even go here. And that is what Luxu said. So that by process of elimination makes it Scald, who has had her sketchy moments. This is a screenshot from the original browser key. As you die, where you see her appear and say a goddess, refer to her as a goddess, and she sort of helps you die because she's a Valkyrie. So
And then Ephemera gets that "we'll go together" line.
And then Ephemera gets to say "we'll go together," which is like the best worst line in every Square Enix game. I'm looking at you, Zach Fair. Yeah, I went there.
It's been 20 years.
Oh, I have, if that hurt you, I have a worse joke for that later. That being said, we know in the secret reports, Luxu talks about how, officially, we know that the Age of Fairy Tales was a very, very, very long time ago. There was some debate before Kingdom Hearts 3 of it being, only a generation or two ago kind of thing. And that if one of the foretellers were Ericus and Xehanort's master, so we do know it was passed down for generations before getting to anyone. So who has it may or may not be that relevant to 4 by the time it gets there. It might mean that there's someone who's going to show up and be important. It might mean that if Skuld has it, she might replace Ava, take Ava's place in the chessboard with the other foretellers, something like that. Yeah?
Very good question.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if you know, if you've read all the Ultimania guide stuff. I have.
Yes.
Has Nora ever codified? I mean, part of it is just obviously when he wrote Kingdom Hearts 1, he clearly didn't know the stuff that he knows now 20 years later. Like, what's the difference between Keyblades, like, of light and dark that we just find flying around?
So, this is actually addressed very directly and specifically in an interview. The Keyblades, so I actually used to have slides on it. They got cut for time when more trailers had come out, and it's definitely not here, but I'm happy to answer it. Keyblades of light are from the realm of light. Void Gear is a Keyblade of light. As stupid as that is, the only canon Keyblade of darkness belongs to that motherfucker over there. Because...
But it's more a question of, like...
No, it's Oblivion is a Keyblade of light for... Well, who knows? It could be because who knows where Ericus got it, basically, but the rule of thumb that Nomura states is if it is a Keyblade of darkness, it is because it is from the realm of darkness.
The question is more like Mickey had his own Keyblade from his own heart, like 90% of the other characters in the series. But Sora's is not from his heart, it's the one
That's also explained directly in an interview. The canon response is Riku accidentally gave it to him when he was being gay in the first game and doing this. Straight up, the explanation in the interview. Yeah, it's Riku. It's straight up. No, Riku was right. Everyone who told him, like, dude, that's your Keyblade. Like, that is a fact. And basically the Keyblade was like, oh, you have me because you want to protect the people important to you, and you're jumping into a void of darkness, and you love this child, so we're just going to stay with him for a while. It's fine. You can interpret it shippy or not. It's good.
So the last part is, how do Keyblades break?
I don't. Because reasons! I don't know. They seem to be really important. The Master of Masters talks about, like, he forged most of them himself, basically. Like, they're his invention. The fact that they can just get broken and Jensen can go to the fucking Keyblade store and be like, oh, Riku, you want a car key now? I don't know what up with that. That's new. You know what that is? Disney going, hey Square, we want to sell more Keyblade toys. Can you, like, get some people some new ones? Yeah, alright, it's fine. Oh, it doesn't go with your metaphysics? Too fucking bad. Alright. Well, I'll take one more.
You just mentioned, like, Yensei getting Riku and Keyblade. Mickey's is still, I think, the Keyblade of darkness, but it kind of seems like it's a fusion of his Starkeeper and
I'm not entirely, he's asking about Mickey's new Keyblade looks like a fusion between the dark Keyblade he had and the one that got damaged. But, Moogles. I'm okay with blaming Moogles. But moving on.
Freaking Moogles.
That was one of my stopping points anyway. So, if you thought that section was disorganized, the next section is a bunch of different, like, loose threads and different points, plot points in Kingdom Hearts 3, of which there were many that did not get resolved or addressed or seem suspicious, and I know no other way to really address them other than to go, that happened, and there's something wrong, but I don't know what. Starting off.
No!
Guys, wait first for an event, right? Yeah. It's fine, I'll shout over it. So we had Sora get in a robot. And,
Sorry, get in the robot. No.
So we like if he's not laughing anymore with them, he's like taking it really personally and being salty. And it's like, oh no, my son. And in the end, there's a resolution. The solution to his problems isn't learning how to cope with difficult emotions or sadness or grief. It's necromancy. So yeah, that's not how the power of waking's supposed to work. That's why he wound up dead. Oh, thank God, you vile thing. All right. Oh, that wasn't the that was not the slide I thought it was going to be next. That's fine. We'll talk more about that later. So Skull Kylum. Kylum, that's not his name. That's not concerning at all. We don't know what happened to it. Apparently, it's the nexus from where all worlds spring, so we have that to deal with. Xehanort and Ericus trained there. Apparently, it's Keyblade Hogwarts, so that's fine. I don't have good screenshots for it, and I apologize for that, but there has been some footage, and that's why it's also kind of a question mark, because I haven't been able to find my own solid footage of it. During the boss fight against Masternort, at the very end, under the water, it appears the thing upside down under the city is the clock tower from Daybreak Town, which has other implications, so yay. Talking about our two boys, or one boy, to clarify, the journal did do a roundabout but solid job of clearing this up, even though, for whatever reason, time-young Xehanort looks older than Skullanort significantly, which is throwing everyone for a loop. But it outright says, like, he was from the island, he left, he ran into the darkness a bunch along the way, apparently, and was like, nah, darkness is chill, it's fine. And then round up in Skull and Kylum, where he started training to become a Keyblade wielder and met Ericus. So at least they addressed that timeline. So now we're going to talk about this, in which everyone was sad, including people no one expected to be sad. I didn't expect to be like, oh no, I want to hug Ansem, what the fuck happened? When he's like the one Nord who I was like, it's okay, at the end of things, he'll always be the unrepentant one. He was like, oh no, I don't care, Riku, be cool. Riku was like, no, yeah, be cool, it's fine. And I was like, what the fuck? But I'm cool with it. I would like to clarify, I loved this. I am confused. That being said, well, okay, you know what I didn't love? Homeboy should have taken the goddamn vessel, alright? Alright, that's what's up there. Real quick, Marley.
So, as he's dying, he's talking to Ericus. Xehanort's kind of like, oh, I wanted to make like a world where we were like protect the light and stuff, and that's kind of inconsistent with goddamn everything. So
It's actually not. There were hooks for it. I was actually confused by how little they went into that, because if you read the secret reports for BBS, there is some hooks for it.
Yeah. That's kind of like a balance, right?
Yeah, and well, so what I'm assuming, one, I just want to address, given the nature of the series and shonen plot arcs, basically, the way I'm imagining this, I doubt we've seen the last of any of these people. One, you don't bring Repliku back from the dead and go through all of this shit and give him a Keyblade to kill him off again. I refuse to accept that. Secondly, I'm thinking of it like Orochimaru. Like, did he become repentant? Not really. Did he, for some reason, become like this awkward dad who lived outside of Konoha and sent his child to ninja school and was like, oh, hey Naruto, do you want cookies or some illegal body modifications? It's fine. I'm imagining that they'll come back in some capacity in some role like that, especially with Xemnas is particularly like, oh wait, no shit. I actually cared about those people and I miss them, now I'm sad. I'm like, oh no, Xemnas, no.
So he's saying like, so like how does like that tie into? On the one hand, we have Xehanort saying like, oh, I'm curious, I want to know about that.
So how does it tie into things? I actually am of the opinion that what this amounts to is Ericus had a longer play. I got some uncomfortable feelings in the last cutscene with the way Xehanort and Ericus were talking, and the fact that Ericus just popped out of Terra like, what up, I've been here the whole time, it's fine. And the analog to them literally playing the game. This actually also kind of goes back to some of the TUI references where the entirety of the game is actually not just a game Neku is playing against the Reapers, but two very powerful characters playing a game against each other for the fate of Shibuya. Do I think they were straight up in a literal Reapers game for like this world line? No, but the theming is possibly something similar. The idea that I'm trying to words good. Basically, it has to do with elaborately dodging fate and the Book of Prophecies, right? I think for Xehanort, the idea it's possible, and this is because I've always been a fan of an unrepentant, but still I had a good reason for being a douchebag, even though I didn't. The dialogue that Sora says where he's like, you didn't have the right to make that decision, like that was really spot on for kind of how I always interpreted his character. The idea of, yes, summoning Kingdom Hearts and rebooting thing was an option, but as Xemnas said, like one Vriska's circuit, he always has irons in the fire. Basically the idea that whatever Brain and Ericus have going on, that because Luxu knew that this second Keyblade War was going to happen and was foretold, Xehanort just went, okay, fine, we're not even going to try and dodge this. That's tied in with a lot of other suspicious things that we're going to talk about, but I think that like sort of the idea of either like this was Xehanort's attempt at a solution and now we're going to go into Ericus's attempt at a solution, or it being they've actually been in cahoots this whole time doing some bullshit even though they've been disagreeing about how to approach and solve the problem that they're both aware of. So one of those things that's really suspicious is Baby Nort clearly knew that what was going to happen to Sora the whole time. And that seems... That normally you'd go, oh, well, he has time powers, it's fine. But the eldest Xehanort dies, and no version of Xehanort witnessed Sora being like, cool, well, I gotta go abuse necromancy to save Kairi, now bye. None of them were there for that, therefore there would be no reason for him to know in theory. So the fact that he's like, Sora, no really, Sora, you're going to die, you're just, alright, fine, I'm not even gonna try anymore. Like, that's why, like, Xemnas and Ansem were all like, oh, okay, bye, and he was like, deuces!
There's no saving you.
There is no saving you, Sora, you fucked up too bad. And in addition, some of the warnings that Luzea Breakbar gave very early in the game seemed to hint at that too. The idea of talking about, again, the screenshot with the whole following one guy into the fire to save him just causes like a chain of self-sacrifice and how that's unideal. It's actually, if anyone's played Final Fantasy X, sort of the same morality logic of that. And him being...
That's on Switch now if you want to pick it up.
Oh, yeah. And him being his whole, like, oh, your reward is right around the corner, whatever the hell that is. So it could be that he knew that the cost, the price, was that his effective death was being stuck in another world line or something similar. Here's just some screenshots of things that, like, were messed up and didn't make sense. One of them is the addressing of, like, Xehanort's personality being all over the place with the, like, I'm comically evil versus I'm doing the wrong thing for the right reason sort of mentality. Part of me wants to chalk this up to what I refer to having evil cackle syndrome. There are a couple of characters in anime where it's like, oh no, I've been a good guy the whole time, you just didn't notice because I keep laughing maniacally every time I talk about it. But also, he did some significantly messed up things. So like, I don't know. There's the fact that, no, he did actually technically win in Summon Kingdom Hearts, even if it was only briefly. The potential end goal of that, of summoning it and destroying anything, did not complete. It was closed, it was not open for long. But there's a potential theory of, what do we know about the last time Kingdom Hearts was open? Well, apparently a bunch of people switched world lines. What if that's one of the things you can do when Kingdom Hearts is open, is use it to hop to other realities? And that might have been his goal. or something related. What are some of the other oh, and the time blip. Oh, we have a whole slide for that bullshit. That was just not. We have Ansem talking about activating Kingdom Hearts as though it's an experiment, even though later Xehanort talks about like knowing straight up exactly what's going to happen and the inconsistencies with that. Yeah. So I saw some hands if I didn't answer those questions while I was talking, which is why I kept talking. Yes?
I was going to say, like, the whole series has been a little inconsistent, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
How all the different boards act because they're not technically the same person.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the point that was made over here was that old Xehanort specifically had some inconsistencies.
But
Yeah.
not just that, but like, the series has had as a constant theme that like you think you're using the darkness, but the darkness gets in your head like a bad drug and makes you do stupid things.
Yeah.
You've seen it from the Disney villains.
Actually, well, on that note, he's talking about the idea of the darkness manipulating people.
So Xehanort thinks that he's like doing this for
Well,
his own reasons.
I'd actually like to point out that it seems like the point of Xehanort is he was truly the one person who was actually not in control of the darkness, but at least on even footing with it. And that to me seems like an important clue, although I don't know where to go with it. We have the time lip, so I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but there's this really weird thing, yeah, I see someone being like, yeah, where after everyone dies, almost the exact same cutscene plays, and you're like, oh, did they go back in time, but they just acknowledged they died, and then the lingering will be like, what up, I'm here with coffee, sorry guys, sorry you all got murdered. But they then again acknowledge it later. Both sides are like, oh yeah, we all died, it was fine. So that clearly is something important and wrong, but I don't know. I don't know if it has to do with like, was another timeline created in that moment? Does it have to do with more world lines? Is it some Xehanort time travel bullshit? You in the red mask, lay it on.
Yeah, so I was talking with some other people about this a few days ago.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, you know when you get to the final world and you have to collect all the swords and stuff?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so apparently there's a skippable cutscene where one of the stars is Naminé, who can apparently talk to, who has like, oh hey, I'll send you back, if you go back in time, they're gonna fuck your shit up again, so I'm gonna talk to Lingering Will, and he's gonna help you. So that's apparently the answer.
Okay, no, I believe it happened. That's not what I'm questioning.
Why haven't we still...
Yeah, there's still way more questions about that then.
That just raises more
questions. And that begs the question, does that mean the star is Naminé? Like, what up then? I have an answer to why Naminé knows the Lingering Will, though. That was actually, and I shit you not, a cutscene that was addressed only in a live performance at one of the orchestras in Japan between the voice actors. Yes. It's not the same. Thank you.
I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just took it because the whole lead into the time blip is Sora constantly using the power of waking.
Yeah.
We still don't know what that is.
It also might tie into like Xehanort might also have that power if the power of waking like sort of evolves into time travel. Xehanort warning, specifically young Xehanort warning him could be because he personally fucked with time so much and he was like, all right, listen, son. I've made this mistake. You don't want to do that. Even I don't want you to do that. Please, no? Alright, fine. Even more traitors. We also had this whole thing with the organization where like no one was loyal to it and everyone just gave up. I don't even have the cutscene where like Larcene was like, let's stage a coup again. And Xemnas is like, I am right here.
I am right here.
Most importantly, of course, we had Aiza, who apparently decided he was gay for Lee after all, and was like, I'll even bring back your other boyfriend, that's how gay I am. We ship everything here. According to the reports, I was starting to get under the impression that even Xemnas might have helped him with this endeavor, but after rewatching the cutscene where Roxa shows up and Xemnas is like, what? You don't even go here. What the actual flip? Just don't, you know. I sincerely doubt that was the case. But Ansem Seeker of Darkness went to harass other Ansem, and Ansem had a lovely conversation where they talked about this girl and were basically accusing each other of doing something to her when the whole time it was actually Sigbar, and that was the joke. And very notably, both in his dying cut, I forgot that, he actually acknowledges it, like the dust shows up and he's like, oh, okay, I get what you're betraying the organization, whatever, it's fine, I don't care anymore. And he's even like, yeah, Haruku, so like, people betrayed the organization, like, I don't have any fucks left to give, I guess? Yeah.
I just want to mention that I actually screamed out loud when Demix was like, Demix time!
Yes, also we live in a world where Demix said Demix time.
We can all go home. That's it.
Yes.
That was Kingdom Hearts 3.
Next time was a reference to some like cosplayer or something.
It might be. I don't know if it was intentionally or not. There was a cosplay show called Demix Time on YouTube that was very famous. Yeah. Oh, one more question? Well, is that what that, I didn't know that she did it off of okay. Anyway, the point being, the organization clearly does not have its shit together. And whatever their ultimate goals were all over the damn place. And that is suspicious. Yes? No? Never mind? Alright, going forward. Also, Shion, why are you here? What are you doing? What? So I'd like to point out, there is a scene in Days that gets skipped over because it like just cuts to the final battle and you're too busy crying over who will I have ice cream with to like process what's happening no matter how many times you rewatch it, where Lee does the thing and Axel brings Shion back and he collapses and Xemnas just walks up and goes, I guess this is mine now, and walks off. We don't know what they do, what they talk about, what happens, and the next thing you know, Shion is talking to Roxas being like, alright, bitch, time to go back to Sora. And it has been suspicious for a long time. It's something we were chalking up as to why Shion might be one of the Seekers. And then she was, and like, nothing's addressed as to like, you picked Shion over Vexen, who made her, why? I mean, I know he's actively betraying you, but clearly, come on. And also the fact that she doesn't really, like, actually betray them outright initially. Like, she just starts having, like, your standard replica memory unstable breakdown, and Xemnas just goes, I give up. I'm tired of this. Why did we replace you with Demix with you?
I found it interesting that during, like, the first box battle with Sayax and Shion,
she was Sayax?
Yeah, she did the berserk thing. Like, I was like,
yeah.
It took us a while.
We were like, why are there two Sayaxes? And then we were like, oh, it's Shion. Oh.
Yeah, I actually saw a theory on Tumblr that I really, believed strongly. The post was talking about the exact moment when Shion gets, like, her heart and her memories back. And it was saying that they had, like, recreated the Shion replica for the final fight, and then when Xemnas kicks her and she goes smashing into Sora's chest, that's when she gets her heart back, and you can tell because that's also, like, the exact moment that her hood goes down and actually remembers her.
I'll accept that happily. So, Marley, and we go on? Yeah, see, that's still the thing. Like, then why instead of Demix? Why instead of Demix and Vexen? They were competent.
Nobody even remembers.
They were competent.
I mean, most of the main characters.
Well, it's because Xemnas and a lot of the members of the true organization were from not their own time, and that's why Xemnas was from a time where he potentially could have remembered her.
And how did they die? Since that's not supposed to be able to happen, the timey wimey stuff.
I'm pretty sure when they die, they get sent back to their own timelines. Like, it's addressed in the secret reports that all of the Norts are using replica bodies and are from other timelines. Let's not talk about the fact that Xemnas is a nobody and that's just fucking cheating, but, you know. Right, this was a slide where I straight up could not find the other screenshot for this, but both young Xehanort and Maleficent say it has been etched.
She says it in Twilight Town, right before the line we mentioned earlier, when Pete says, like, when she says, like, it's not in this timeline.
No, it's not. I checked. That's what I thought it was, but it wasn't. And I was like, where is this line? But I know she says it. I could not find it for the life of me, and I had 10 hours of cutscenes to wade through, so I gave up eventually. But they both say this phrase, it's concerning. It obviously has to do with some hardcore time travel-y stuff, given Maleficent's new status as Dr. Maleficent.
How did you get back here from being traveled?
Yeah, so there's, it seems like it's something that addresses paradoxes, or like a point in time that is paradox-proof, perhaps. And speaking of Maleficent, so she know what up. She gets visited by someone in the past. She goes back in time. This cutscene is explained. When she gets stabbed in KH1, her heart was separated from her body, and she wound up in the past and was like, cool, I'm just gonna go back here and try to take things over. But because they're in a different world line, and it's not really the original Enchanted Dominion or anything, she wound up in the data recreation of it. It is very confusing. But I promise that is the thing. It will likely become less confusing when we get an official translation of this cutscene, which we do not have. It is from Japan. But she winds up in the key version of the Enchanted Dominion. It's explained that it is truly just a data world. It's not even a projection from the Book of Prophecies, because the second generation Union leaders don't have the capability to do that. And all of the worlds in KHUX are actually data reconstructions set on loops, basically. So it's explained that she can't change the future here, and she's like, well shit, what am I gonna do? I'm stuck in the past now. And your homeboy, who we gonna talk to in the next slide, is like, and alright, I'll teach you how to go to the future without waiting. So we have the Dorkness. So we have this guy who shows up. I like try to brighten the image as much as possible. They literally are just like a fuzzy thing of darkness. They do step forward but don't seem to have a physical form. And they introduce themselves as the Dorkness. And even Maleficent is like, dude, I introduced myself as the Mistress of Evil, and I think that's extra. They clearly have knowledge of the future. Because they know exactly how Maleficent got here, and are talking in detail about Xehanort and other things. We also have, they are definitely not Luxu or someone working with Luxu or the Master of Masters, because he talks about them being an entity that's unaccounted for and a problem. Because I used to think it was either Luxu or the Master of Masters, but that has now been ruled out. But we have a new theory. Because someone decided to start introducing themselves as the Dorkness. And hear me out. The rules of time travel are that you have to leave your body behind, you have to travel as a heart, and you have to have a version of yourself at the destination. Vanitas explains in Monsters, Inc. that he basically never had a real body. He's just a really intense unverse. You know, he's the heart of, he's basically a Heartless for all intents and purposes, or like the cousin of a Heartless. He's darkness that was ripped out of Ven's heart. He's half a heart. He's technically less than a heart, but it's less than a body, and that's what matters. And of course, there is a version of himself waiting at the destination, which would be your boy Ventus, because he is Ven. The idea that potentially he knew something else that was going on and used the opportunity to travel back in time. Also, his heart getting ripped out could just be during the final battle when he gets shivved, or any of the other times where he got dead, because that happens to him a lot. I honestly, if it is someone that we know at all, like this seems like the most logical thing with any dots to tie. It's the only other person who's absurd enough to refer to themselves as the Darkness. Also, he does refer to Master Xehanort as the old man with a Keyblade, which seems indicative of Vanitas. I can't quite analyze the speech patterns because, again, it's a translated cutscene, but from what I can tell, it seems about on par with how he speaks. I'd have to wait for the English version for that. So yeah, the only other hint we had towards who might be the Darkness was Maleficent does refer to the Riku replica as a friend that she could not say she knew from when, which for a hot sec I was like, did this bitch go back in time? Is that what up? I don't know. But those are really the only two leads we have there. So Chirithy, I said I was going to talk more about Chirithy. We have him talking about he doesn't remember the past. We did talk about the connection thing. There's also concerns and questions about what happened to all of the Chirithys. What happened to the Chirithys in Skala ad Kylum? If Skala ad Kylum is sort of like, you know, they refer to Ericus as a blue blood, that he was descended from those second generation Keyblade wielders, that was just a long time ago. What happened to the idea of Chirithys and Dream Eaters, and why are they only found in the realm of sleep now? Because at the time, everyone had one. This was a thing that I realized because I kept reading fan fiction where I found they were giving Ericus Chirithy, and I was like, oh wait, shit, that makes sense. What happened to the Chirithys, though? Also that. Also the fact...
Mystery.mp3.
It is a mystery.mp3. Also the fact that Brain just sort of invents spirits, and why they do or don't wind up in the realm of sleep. But yes, we talked about this one a little out of order, so I'll go ahead. Yes, and now, for my lovely shitposts.
Where's the X-Blade?
This was pointed out to me by a friend. So Xehanort, at the end of the game, he admits defeat surprisingly gracefully after getting bitch slapped by his husband, and just hands it to Sora, and Sora does the flashy light show, and then the cutscene ends abruptly and cuts off the music cue, and then just cuts to Sora being like, well, I'm gonna go kill myself to save Kairi, now bye. And it is not addressed what happened to it. Does Sora have it? Did it break apart after they summoned Kingdom Hearts and closed it again? Is it just around now? What up with that? What up? Did Sora take it with him to Shibuya? Has Joshua been after the Keyblade the whole time? Do not give Joshua the Keyblade! Yeah, I see people getting mad about So, here are the things that just don't even get addressed or talked about really in the game. Luxu gives Sora a wild card. This is not addressed in any capacity. It probably is a reference to Sigbar being a Keyblade wielder, having used cards in the original version of Key as his power source. It might be a card with Sora or himself on it, and that is the joke. That would be my strongest guess. It could be something, it could be the reason he winds up in Shibuya or in Tui or whatever. Who knows? We have Soul Eater, who has the Gazing Eye, who appears to be the wing on the symbol on the Book of Prophecies, which if you look closely, it has a little bat wing and a little angel wing. We just don't talk about the fact that Soul Eater has the Gazing Eye. That's just never been addressed, but it is clearly relevant. We only go through maybe 3 of the new 7 hearts. Also, I personally do not believe Rapunzel can qualify as being a Princess of Heart after Tangled the series and Varian. I'm just saying. Kairi's grandma's story. We didn't address Kairi's grandma. Everyone expected her to have been revealed to have known Ericus or Xehanort. It just didn't get talked about. The fact that she knows about the Age of Fairy Tales didn't get talked about. And last but certainly not least, all of the foreshadowing that Xemnas was Terra was dropped. We had the secret scenes of him referring to the armor as his friend and talking to her. We had the scenes with Sigbar talking to Ienzo, calling Xemnas out on this fact, being don't you think it's suspicious that he seems to be looking for Ventus and Aqua for some fucking reason? As well as, I did an analysis in former panels talking about how the way Terra moves in 0.2, when Aqua talks to him, he uses the same gestures and speech cadence as Xemnas, and it appeared that, that's the other side of this conversation here, where he's talking to the armor. But no, Terra was just also there as Terranort, and we didn't address, except maybe with a loneliness comment, any of Terra's or Xemnas' potential latent relationship to Terra, other than that one cutscene where Riku and Mickey were trying really, really, really hard to be sure everyone in the audience understood the Nort timeline. So, questions, comments, concerned on that. I saw some hands going up, but I wanted to finish my word vomit. I see one.
So, in terms of the theory, because I remember I think I talked to somebody like a while ago, and I actually was like freaking out when I was building the game. The whole with Terra, because when Terra lost his heart, obviously, you know, when you lose your heart, you become a heartless and then nobody. But we never ever saw Terra's heartless. And then when it gets revealed that I guess like the guardian was really the heartless, was that like I guess because Ansem, Seeker of Darkness was technically Xehanort's a heartless, was that because, and then the guardian because they were both sort of combined? Yeah,
they were combined. I think in the case of Ansem and the guardian, logistically we talk a lot about what happened to a person, to a similar situation in terms of Roxas, Naminé, and Sora, right? So, metaphysically speaking, Ansem and Xemnas function the same way as Roxas and Naminé do. There are secret reports talking about how Naminé is a unique nobody because she was born from Kairi's heart leaving Sora's body. But as you can see, Sora, when those two hearts left, produced two different nobodies. So that begs the question if Terra would have his own nobody, or why Xemnas seems to be a combination of the two instead. I see you're excited.
I was going to say, I think the best honest answer, especially given that a lot of stuff kind of breaks off from that Kingdom Hearts 1, which was the beginning of the series, is that Nomura just kind of does make a lot of stuff and retcons a lot of stuff as you want.
He really doesn't though. Anything from Cage 1 is different because truly Square did not expect to get a sequel. But this is from Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which to me is far enough in the timeline of things that there would have been some planning and forethought put into it.
Because even past here, in the epilogue of Birth by Sleep, the way in that one scene that like in his heart, Master Ericus and Terra have that conversation where he first says like, "Hey, Sly Fox."
Yeah.
Like, Terra, the way Terra acts and the possibility of Arrakis being in there then doesn't jive at all with how Terra and the mental part.
Well, because Ericus was just like, I'm here, but I'm not doing anything. Honestly, my opinion is it's less that Square is intentionally retconning things because they're lazy, and I think it might have to do with Disney not letting them do what they want because they have to comply with certain child friendliness. And I know Disney would get a little queasy with too much moral ambiguity, basically. Kingdom Hearts has actually followed sort of a pattern where, for the most part, a character is not allowed to get a redemption in the same game in which they are a villain. And that's how Square sort of gets around what I feel like situations that would increase the rating to a T rating a lot of the time. This even holds true kind of for Riku. Like, he has his sweet farewell, he closes the door, he says take care of Kairi, he obviously tries to stop Ansem, but it's not the same full redemption arc that he gets in the next game. You know, most of the members of the organization, you fight them, you treat them as nobodies, you're told that they're not people, so it's okay to kill them, kids, because they're not actually real. Don't stab people with keys unless they're nobodies. But then later, when they're people again, it's fine, but then you start blurring the lines with Roxas and all of that. The darkest they've really gotten were in Traded Memories and Days with the handhelds. They cheated a lot in Trade Memories with how dark it got because originally it was sprite-based, so there was no graphic violence. They were just talking hypothetically about violence, and that's why there are actually heavy edits in the 3D version. And the original Alias actually committed suicide, and they were like, we can't do that now.
Are those different world blends now?
Potentially. So that's another reason why I think it's very likely that people like Xemnas and Ansem and even young Xehanort will show up again in a more neutral capacity as, oh yes, I'm now the lovable villain that like you love to hate, you've known for so long, but now we have to work together against a bigger asshole. It's I honestly really do think Baby Nord is going to show his stupid face again in wherever, Shibuya and all of that, since he clearly knew it was going to happen, to be like, oh, hi, Sora, I told you so. Because yes, he does eventually have to go back to his timeline, but that doesn't, because he has all the time in the world, because time magic, because bullshit. So, there's that. I do believe, is it? Oh, it got desynced? Okay, yeah, I thought that was the last slide. We have, what?
Oh, I was saying that you got desynced.
Oh, well, I don't care. People can see my horrible, like, what you're gonna see, my Gam and Galleon wall scroll, it's wallpaper, it's fine.
You have the wall scroll, though.
The wall scroll, though. I do have a wall scroll, but it's not gay, it's just Asuka, I think. I'm not sure, I got it at the first store. Anyway, that's off topic. Hello, everyone.
Follow us if you want to.
Yes, follow us. Well, before, questions galore now. We have plenty of time left. I want to talk about theories. I want this to be open now that we've talked about all of the different major points. I saw your hand go up first, so I'm going to call on you first back there. I'll hit you next, and then you in the red.
What about Kyrie?
Oh, well, if you want to take a minute to be salty about that, we can. I mean, I could sit here and talk for a while about how Kyrie and Riku didn't get any dialogue together the entire game, or that how all the other trios got a group hug but they didn't, or how Kyrie got reduced to being a MacGuffin plot device again because, oh no, wrist control. I don't know. I don't have anything really lore pertinent to comment on that. I was disappointed in the fact that, frankly, her abilities as a Princess of Heart overshadow any potential acts of true love and make it harder for them to write good Souri, which they didn't, or Sokai. I ship all the things. I truly was down for some good Sokai, but I don't think they executed it very well, in my personal opinion. And I feel like most people do feel that way. Same thing with Riku, where he super dropped the ball with Sora and was like, oh, my boyfriend is as depressed as I am. I don't really know what to do about this now. I'ma leave. Bye. So I don't know enough of that. You had a question, Mercy. Or Honey.
So I had to watch the cutscenes because I don't own a proper console, so I might have missed something.
No, you good.
But Terra's heart didn't come from Terra. Terra's heart came from a Heartless. Did nobody else notice that?
So the idea is, way back when, Terra's heart was sort of backseating to Xehanort when he became Science Nort, right? Way back when he was
about the one with the heart shape.
Right, well, the Guardian, in Birth by Sleep, when you first fight possessed Terra, the Guardian comes out of him because Aqua does something, and that was not because Aqua does something, Xehanort's trying to force Terra out, so that Heartless was, in theory, the bits of Terra, and it was still tied to him, connected to him, which is why you had Amnesia Boy being Science Nort for a while, and then when they split it, went with the Heartless, and you had Xemnas over here, and they did things.
There was another cutscene in Final World. Sora talked to an unnamed person that I'm a secret, stating that I'm waiting for someone to get me like how you're here, and she whispered something. We don't know her name. We just have a voice. That's it.
It was voiced, and it was
after the nominee one.
The Night Star, the sister.
Okay, yeah, it's probably Strelitzia. I'm almost certain, yeah. It would either be that or the player, basically, because there was that whole thing with the player waiting for Ephemera, but that actually got resolved recently where Ephemera finally showed up to talk to the player because Lorian was like, is there a chance this asshole knows my dead sister? You're going to take me to him right now, please, thank you, because I'm a little yandere-ass bitch. He's beautiful. I see a hand over there.
So my question really is not really complicated. So do you think the next game will be either have the Shibuya thing with I forgot the other game's on anymore.
The World Ends With You? Yeah.
Do you think the next game will be addressing that, or will we skip and have a new pro tag?
So one of the reasons that Sora's death caught me a little off guard is because Nomura did once in an interview state, no matter what, Sora will always be the protagonist of the Kingdom Hearts games. He is, the heart and soul of the series. It will always be Sora's story, which is why when everyone was making the memes about people who's gonna die, which apparently the answer was everyone, by the way. I ruled out Sora pretty easy going, no, he's a protagonist and it's a Disney game, they can't do that. Little did I know, Nomura was sitting there laughing, holding up a copy of Tui going, just because he's dead doesn't mean he can't be the protagonist. So I do truly believe that Tui will be in the next game in some capacity, and that's how Sora's going to get back.
The real question is, will the next game be called Kingdom Hearts 4 or Tui 2?
I don't know how connected they're going to wind up being. Kingdom Tui! I would also like to, it's way back there, but like the noise over Shinjuku has very similar cinematography to Kingdom Hearts itself. If I can you tab back to that? Yeah, I'll get to you guys next, I promise. I know you were next. You.
I mean, I just had like a silly theory about what the next game could be.
It was.
Like based on like that whole like Shibuya thing, the fact that we saw Sora and Riku in two different parts, and
Mm-hmm.
like he's kind of lost himself at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine just kind of randomly, if there was going to be a sequel, putting it on like a Nintendo back to Nintendo console, put it on Switch, having it be a spiritual successor to Dream Drop.
Yeah.
Mechanic.
That's what I was thinking too.
Between Sora and Riku, call it Dream Drop on Switch, DDoS, just like
Yeah.
DDoS and TOS.
The idea of the fact that Shinjuku, I haven't even spoken earlier, Shinjuku is another district of Tokyo. I don't know if I fucked up and said Shinjuku was in Shibuya, that's next to Shibuya. But the idea that Shinjuku might only be existing in the RG or Land of the Living, whereas Sora would be in Shibuya's underground, or where the dead people are. Doing that mechanic again would make a lot of sense. Joshua, I'd also just like to point out that Joshua is a sketchy little bitch, and like by his own logic in Dream Drop Distance, he says like, oh well, Sora, of course I know you. I dreamed you up. You're in my town because of how his metaphysical things work. He's omniscient. Therefore, he knew everything Xehanort was doing. And Baby Nort was doing and thinking because he can read minds because he's Joshua. So he was just like, I could make this easier for you, but I'm an asshole, so like, go deal with that, it's fine. All right, you?
So obviously with all the numerical titles, we always notice that there's always at least a final mix. Now with Kingdom Hearts 3 being on like the newer gen consoles where, they don't actually have to re-release a CD, do you think with the final mix, obviously this might be, just like a digital download DLC you can get? Would that with the added cutscenes, do you think they'll probably add, or explain what happened between the end of the boss fight to what happened?
I'm honestly not sure, mostly because the industry is changing a lot, and this has to do with some very meta sort of like how games are produced type things. I was in game development for myself for a while. One, Nomura hates DLC. He did not like what happened with Final Fantasy 15. It bothered him greatly. He wanted to release it in its entirety or just release another game. That's why he said he made an announcement between 3 releasing in Japan and America, basically, that he didn't want to do DLC and wanted to immediately focus on Kingdom Hearts 4. Now, I do think because it's just more logical than re-releasing the game with a few extra things, that he would do DLC or patches if he wanted any Final Mix content, because that sentiment comes from a place of it feels unfair to make gamers waste their money that way. It feels dishonorable to the extent of my knowledge, as well as a very improper way to tell the story. And making someone download 1 or 2 things of DLC is definitely a lesser greater evil than making them buy an entire new game remake. Whereas what happened with 15, where it was, several extra games worth of content of DLC being released. There were, by American standards, it wasn't that bad at all because we deal with things like loot boxes and shit like that. But Japan actually has anti-gambling laws regarding things. That's actually why the Japanese version of KHUX is so different. Fun fact. The KHUX is run by a middleman company, not directly by Square North America. That is so bad about drop rates and things like that that it's like banned in some countries because of its gambling. Yeah. So because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little DLC. I'd be quite happy. I'd especially be happy if they did like some like fun cosmetic DLC, or address some
Gave
extra
us those
things.
scenes they cut for time.
Yeah, I really want them to add in the scenes that they cut for time and disk space, which was a thing that Nomura talked about a lot during the development of the game. That cutscene I mentioned before, where that was done as a stage performance between Naminé and Terra's Japanese voice actors, was something he wanted to put in the game, but he knew he wasn't going to have time. 0.2 was supposed to be the opening intro, but there wasn't disk space. And so, if they wanted to put some of that in, that'd be cool, but, you know.
Maybe a critical move.
Yeah.
Gio. Oh, sorry. You're good, you're good.
Because Nomura stated if he released any DLC, it would all be about plot, it wouldn't be like cosmetics. It wouldn't be
Oh, he did state that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said like DLC's not off, like,
Completely off the table?
He's like, we're not really looking at it, but it's
Yeah.
not off the table.
Yeah. I know he wants to get straight into Cage 4. It's my personal opinion that because of the hype and the stress around the title Kingdom Hearts 3, they sort of gave us something that was safe for them, that tied up the loose ends for the people who played 1 and 2, not for the people who had been with the series the whole time, to reintroduce people to the franchise, to catch people up, and to kind of bring all the characters back to the same place. Because that's the resolution we got. The resolution we got was for the Sea Salt Trio and the Wayfinder Trio. We introduced a new dilemma for the Paupu Trio, and we resolved Xehanort, but not the rest of the organization. But also we kind of didn't because their endings were very ambiguous. But it does level the playing field for people who missed the games a lot, where a lot of some of the extra confusing tidbits no longer matter because, well, now that the Wayfinder's together, you don't have to understand the relationship between Vanitas and Ventus, all right? You don't have to understand what happened to Terra and how he split into the different Norts. If they're all their own people doing their own things now on the same side, more as minor characters, it's fine. Going forward, here's Shibuya, kind of thing. You, because I keep skipping you by accident in the red again, sorry, and then you in the white.
Why no Final Fantasy characters?
I actually have an answer for that. That happened in an interview where he basically, Nomura said, oh, I forgot a big thing. I get to bring that up now. Nomura said, basically, well, I can write all of my shitty Final Fantasy crossover fanfiction into Cydia now. And it was more eloquent like that than that. He was talking about how he felt he had so much opportunity to explore those characters that he didn't need to put them in Kingdom Hearts, even though he understood that they were a part of it to begin with. And I think the reason Tui is getting introduced more heavily instead of Final Fantasy is because Tui is something he's had hit road stops in exploring in other avenues, so he just finally went, nah, it's fine. We'll just put it over here. Of course, we also have things like Yozora. So, that being said, for anyone who didn't notice, in Toy Story, and this has several very fun implications for world lines, is Dissidia NT is in the toy store. There's no, it only has summons on the box art for those.
Conspicuously absent.
Yeah, you don't see any, like, it's not like he walks up and goes, it's Cloud! Cloud's from a video game. It implies that maybe in addition to Tui, perhaps the crossover nexus that is Dissidia, Sora can be addressed to. Maybe they will be adding Sora to Dissidia, Sora for Dissidia, Sora for Smash, what have you. You in the white, you had a question?
Yes, I might have missed it, but what happened to the Lingering Will?
The Lingering Will was Terra's mind. Basically, it went back into Terra and potentially it was what gave the Guardian the strength to break free and be Terra and then save Ventus and Aqua in that cutscene in the final battle. You had a question?
Can we talk about how Vanitas, like his characterization was shafted because you get the light novel and it's like, oh my god, he's so sad, they were just all these bad things to him, and then
Yeah.
the game and he's
Well,
time to die.
That's why I'm pretty sure too, the theory about him showing up in Key, I really don't think any of those characters are like for dunzos, for realsies. I think it's important to his character that he does express, no, I chose the darkness, and I get that. And he did have to get killed off for 5 minutes to forge the Keyblade, so it good. But I have enough faith that like he's gonna walk up later like, oh, what up, guys? It's the same thing like many moons ago when everyone was like, man, I really like those members of the organization in Castle Oblivion, but they all got killed off in like this like weird DS game. Not it wasn't even DS then. Yeah, it was Game Boy Advance. Old. Oh, you got killed off in a Game Boy game. We don't get to see them. I'm sad. I want more of them. And now here we are with Enzo and Marluxia being like a super important character and everything. So honestly, especially since the theming of Sora aggressively, Roxas is his own person, I am going to save him, fuck all of you. Yeah. Even he was like, no, Vanitas, you need to be your own person. What are you doing? I'm mad at you. Stop that. And Vanitas is like, dude, it's like, give me like 10 minutes, all right? I gotta take care of some shit, all right?
Poor Dylan and Alias still got no speaking lines.
And Dylan and Alias got no speaking lines. So I'm not too worried. In the way back, because I'm trying to hit people in order, yes.
Okay, so I wanted to wait until the end of this to bring up this quality shitpost.
Oh, thank you.
Well, in the climate of America right now, I really think Kingdom Hearts is communism.
Can you repeat it?
I want to know your comment as a Kingdom Hearts aficionado.
Uh-huh.
This is my statement. Kingdom Hearts is communism.
Kingdom Hearts is communism. I mean, Sora is a little communism. Well, it's...
I guess.
No, the Master of Masters is communism, right? Because he believes everyone has a place and a role and they should not deviate from it. Whereas Ericus and Brain are free will and therefore Captain America. I got it.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, so, remember what I was actually going to ask.
I apologize.
Yeah, okay. I remember what I was asking you.
No problem. Hello, near children. Yes. The one Square Enix game that will never cross over with Kingdom Hearts. Nier and Drakengard.
Tomb Raider confirmed for the next one. I mean, Tomb Raider and Just Cause.
I don't want Drakengard and Kingdom Hearts. Drakengard is just too fucked up. My boy Kaim is too messed up.
I want Zero to meet Sora and he just tried to be like, you can be friends with your sister.
We've hijacked your question, I'm sorry.
No, but haven't actually played the game. It's hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
But I love this series, and I'm curious what you think about the gameplay of Kingdom Hearts 3 versus Kingdom Hearts 2, because my brother was saying that
I can talk intelligently about the gameplay. I didn't think it was bad. I think it was a little cluttered, if I'm going to be honest.
I heard it was a bunch of Disney rides, and I recommended it.
Yeah, they did so many things. So my only grievance isn't really like I had fun with it. I didn't think it was hard or bad. I had two things. One, I basically stopped using new Keyblades after a point because I got tired of learning new mechanics every time I switched Keyblades, and it was kind of like, I want to learn all these fun things, but it's a lot of work, and I have a game to beat. I need to get to Xehanort. Two, because of keeping up with updates and interviews and things like that, I know very early on some of the goals Nomura set out for himself about wanting to avoid the triangle to win phenomenon and wanting it to feel natural, and it felt like that certain mechanics were not well integrated throughout the entirety of the game. There were a lot of one-off set-piece gimmick things that were in awkwardly two places, and it would have been less awkward if they were just in one place or in multiple places. Yeah, the final battle had the land, sea, and air thing, which was thematic, but you don't learn any of that or use it anywhere else other than the Caribbean for some reason, and that was a little weird. The sledding thing, which you only do on 2 worlds, the dashing behind cover thing you only do on 2 worlds, and instead of really...
We do that on 3, don't we?
Did we do that on 3? Oh, you do it on 3. Because you do it in the final battle. The fact that a lot of the mechanics, you felt like you were getting introduced to them just for the world, but it also didn't quite have, the consistency of, I learn a new thing for each world, either because some of them repeated and some of them didn't, and that none of them had
just a little bit like.
Yeah, I really wish that they had kind of concluded or like made Sora have to use all of those things in some capacity in the final battle or on the Badlands, because I thought that would have tied it up better. But for the most part, I thought it was fine. I was disappointed that they don't have critical mode and it was grossly easy. I will give that. I don't know which one of you you remember.
Okay, so Sora spends half the game crying about Roxas and wanting him to be a real boy.
Yes.
They don't talk to each other.
No. That again, like Wayfinders get a hug, Sea Salt get a hug. We don't get any of the like interpersonal interactions that we wanted. We didn't get Roxas and Sora getting a reunion. We didn't get like Roxas and Ben getting to talk. We didn't get Vanitas and Roxas getting to talk. Like
we didn't get any.
At one point, look at each other and be.
At one point, does Vexen walk up to Lee and be like, "So remember that time you murdered me in cold blood? Like, where was that? All right, that's what I wanted to see." Yes.
There were two giant divides. I guess you'd call them segregation between story and gameplay.
Yeah.
And one of them was the fact, and this is just personally something I did, and we've had 3 games now. So it started in Dream Drop, there's a little bit of fragmentary passage, this one. Mostly Yen said, but other people being like, Sora, you suck now, you're so weak, please stop sucking. And then meanwhile in this game, not only is Sora, because of the clever thing we talked about, so overpowered from the start, but literally no one else on the side of light can do anything without Sora coming in.
Well, Riku accomplished some things. They needed the power of gayness. And Aqua did fight Vanitas by herself like a big girl.
The other segregation was like, not just in this game, but in all the past games. Like organization members be like 1v1 with Sora.
Yeah.
Sora just bonks them to death every time, which is why they have to run away.
Yeah.
Suddenly in this game, all the organization members in cutscenes can do crazy shit like seeing creating the whole labyrinth of ice.
Yeah, I'm still pretty sure that my assumption for that is that they wanted that to be the basement of the palace, and Disney went, no, you can't have Elsa make something like that. That's my guess. Where Larcene got her bullshit ice powers, I don't know.
But even in other scenes, like all the darkness powers are suddenly
She just learned Blizzaga.
Yeah, she learned Ice Blizzard.
There's also that time Sora was like, oh my god, ice magic, I've never seen that before. In the back. Yes.
I think today I mentioned this. You talking about Lee and Isa. Do you think that Ava could be the missing?
Yes, that was my, I aggressively think it's Ava. It's either Ava or Skull, that I'm really on the Ava camp for that, given it's Ava. Given her being absent from the secret ending, the fact that Sigbar, Luxu, Luzea Begbar was the one who took her, the fact that, she's someone who had to have known about the Keyblade War, and the fact that she goes, my heart is my guiding key, blah, blah, blah. It all points to it being Ava pretty heavily, in my opinion.
We'll get a lot more plot in the mobile game before Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out, so they'll be able to go back storyline.
Hopefully, we'll see. Yes.
I do want to add something on to the Sora sucks and we're not going to address it thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know a ton about Borderlands with you, but I know that there's an entrance fee to get into the game.
Yeah.
Some people have been saying Sora's going to give up his memories, but what if he gives up his positive emotions towards his friends so that they...
So the entry fee to the game, canonically in the secret reports of TUI, is stated as the thing you value most. So at best, we're gonna turn into Tsubasa, and it's gonna be like, who the fuck's Riku and Kairi? Even though Naminé was like, I specifically can't overwrite those memories, guys. He's too gay and or hetero for those 2 people. He's too bad.
He's too powerful.
His polyamory is too strong. A lovely shitpost that was addressed recently in addressing the fact that they poorly shoehorned in Sokai, which again, I don't have a problem with Sokai, I have a problem with how they did it. and like Riku was just like left in a literal corner, like, I guess I'm over here literally talking to myself now. It's like,
Well, I guess
what I've been seeing on the internet, forget the Keyblade War. This has stirred up a far more ancient and dangerous war. The shipping wars. On this land shall, what was it, gayness, shall heteronormativity prevail and gayness expire? Was that the quote? That's what it was?
Don't we have that one weird scene at the end after Namine wakes up where she and Riku go off?
Yeah, I didn't read that as shippy because, like, yeah, they endured, like, Diz's emotional abuse the whole time. 3 minutes, gotcha.
Cool.
So, I remember, I kind of buy this, how, so remember in Kingdom Hearts 2, how, you know, when Axel is in the memory, or in the data world and shit, it's like Roxas, like, basically acting like a spurned, jealous lover.
Yeah.
And then they're like, nah, guys, it's cool, because they got this chick with them the whole time. I feel like that's basically what they're doing with, like, this Sokai shit, where they're like, oh, no, they're strict guys, I swear.
Yeah, like, well, because Dream Drop Distance, which the actual name we all know is So Repents in Parkour, like, it laid it on thick, and then, like, the thing that really bothered me, though, is that in the secret ending, they didn't even, like, try to keep it up, though. It was like, oh, Kairi who? Riku's going to save his boyfriend again, and I'm like, you couldn't even keep it up, guys. Like, you're not even trying.
I did it gay.
Hey, he tries to get the gay in. He is pro-gay. That's why the lesbians are diamonds. For those of you not familiar with 13, just understand that the lesbians are diamond, they're canon, and it's fine. Don't worry about it. On that note, we're basically at the end of this.
We have
business cards. Come take our cards. Come check out our YouTube channel at The Seekers of Darkness, where we talk about theories. We're playing through Kingdom Hearts 3 again right now.